partners is always taking place. Whether you're conscious of it or unconscious of it, it doesn't stop these polarizing energies from interacting with one another. And whether you're a man or a woman, just because you're a woman, you're not always giving one energy. And just because you're a man, you're not always giving another energy. At this rate in the game, men and women have swapped energies back and forth dozens of times, and they do dozens of times every day as they interact with one another. Very, very few human beings lived in a traditional polarized relationship, especially in the Western world. We've liberated ourselves, particularly women, to such a degree that any woman you meet is going to have a highly developed consciousness, alpha qualities, ability to lead, direct, be effective in the world, all these qualities, which are the qualities, Omji, you're mentioning in the women that you used to date. Now, Amji, what you also described is that you've dated a new woman who's soft, and you're asking how you can you're wanting to withhold yourself because you're feeling there's this energy flowing from you towards her, right? Like an emotional flow. That emotional flow of energy is traditionally what we call the feminine flow. I use the term omega to describe that because it's not bound by just women, and you're a perfect example of that. You're in this dynamic and you can feel a tendency to want to flow emotion to your partner, flow emotion. And that can happen organically, and you're going to attract a certain woman who has the bandwidth capacity to receive that, to be polarized as consciousness as you become that, as you give that. And you can have a beautiful relationship like that. There's nothing wrong about it. When it becomes a problem is when these patterns are completely unconscious and we're not aware of what's happening. So because you have this emotional tendency to want to flow energy to the other through dialogue or expression, however it is, it attracts a certain kind of woman. Now you have chosen a woman who is not like that. And it sounds like you've done it intentionally. Maybe you've got enough of the alpha woman and you want some omega energy. You want some of that yin, yes, softer, right? So you've got it, and you're intuiting already. If I start flowing this thing to her, it's not going to be for her. It's not going to be the polarizing engagement that I would like it to be. This is where real, true spiritual growth takes place. Because you're going to have to overcome and transcend your wiring. Remember that neuromuscular armoring and those old habitual patterns we learned in childhood? That's on. That's your hardware. You're going to have that hardware for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's just. So when you sit down in front of her, you're going to be sitting there and you're going to feel this thing kind of like buzzing inside of you and wanting to kind of spew out and just do it. And every moment you're unconscious, it's going to. It's going to. It's just going to fall out of you, and that's going to start to neutralize your relationship or polarize her into alpha. You might have had this beautiful, omega expression, but just because of your behavior pattern, if she continues to stay in polarity with you, she has no choice but to become consciousness and play alpha. Do you see that? So it's either going to make you guys feel like friends, the friend zone, and she's gonna go, oh, I really like you, but as a friend. Or it's gonna repel her and she's gonna be like, oh, I don't wanna be with this kind of guy. Or she's gonna have to turn into alpha and say, all right, but I'll play this role. And then you will lose out on the quality that you were drawn to in the first place in this relationship. Yeah. This is what we do to our partners. We think like if we get a different partner, it's gonna go differently. But in truth, even if our partner is not feeding into our wounds, we'll relate to them so often in such a way they have no choice but to become the reciprocal of our patterning. And we end up in the same fucking situations again and again. This is very common. Yeah.
You're awesome.
So what you're going to have to do then, if you really want to do this, is you're practicing presence with her, and she becomes the content of the moment. Now, if she's soft spoken, if she's quiet, her tempo might be much slower than yours, much more delicate. So you're going to want energy to kind of do this thing, but you'll have to hold back and let her energy take the spotlight. Her energy is in the spotlight. So, however quickly she's moving, you're moving slower. However flowing she is, you're stiller. However deep she's breathing, you're breathing deeper. And physiologically, you'll begin to polarize her body just through those techniques. And for you, it's going to feel very artificial. It's going to feel very forced. You might feel mechanical at times. Um, there's this terminology from old world teacher called data bots, or when you do specific practices, you start to become like a robot, like following all of the mechanical pieces. And it's true, you become very robotic until it becomes natural, until it becomes something that you are authentically capable of. So when we practice, it's okay to practice robotically. It's like practicing martial arts. You can practice a punch very robotically. You can just slow down the motions, go through the movement, just repeating pattern, repeating pattern, repeating pattern. And that's what we do on our meditation cushions when we sit and we become still. We observe the tendency to want to fidget or emote, but instead we just observe and we be still. We learn to breathe deeply into the belly. We exaggerate these features so that when we're in the real moment, when you're in the cage, the punch just comes naturally. It's organic, it's spontaneous, it's real, it's real. But if for a time period it feels very forced, that's your resistance to being alpha with an omega partner. You will feel your resistance in that moment, and your practice is stillness, presence, breath. She's the content of the moment, moment to moment. Observe your discomfort with that and embrace it, but celebrate it at the same time.